Dr. Farson is the president of the Western Behavioral Sciences Institute. Richard?
I've been looking forward to this opportunity to talk with you about this. I used to be a futurist in the 60s and 70s until we discovered that there isn't any way to predict the future. So I'm not going to try to do that for you. But it is interesting to look at what is largely the invisible present. That is, the things that are happening that people are not paying attention to. And when I look at those things now, especially in the fields in which you are interested, I can tell you that I find the future for design to be quite an interesting and rewarding one if these things that are happening are really called into play. But it's not the future that designers are expecting, and I think maybe even it's not a future you would welcome. But here's what I think it is, and I'm afraid it's going to happen to you whether you want it or not. The fact is, I hope it will happen to you whether you want it or not, because it's very important for us as a society. You see, I don't think most designers would agree that design in the future will be the most important profession in our society. The most important one. Not only that, but it can be the only one that can guarantee the future of America. Now, I think that is the role you're going to play, even if you're not sure you want it. Now, mobilizing the design community to redefine and transform itself so that it can serve in this urgently needed, greatly expanded, and far more socially responsible role is challenging indeed, and that's what I'm asking of you today. Here's why. America, in spite of whatever you hear about it, is failing, and failing badly, and not just at this economic recession level. It's failing at a much more fundamental level. It's the level at which you people operate. It's the level of our infrastructure. But not many people, and maybe even not many designers, are really aware of the mounting dangers. America was once the world's leader, right at the top of all the indices of success, and now we are not at the top of any of them, and we are hardly in the top 10 of most, and very often at or near the bottom of any of these indices of national achievement. It's worsening every day. We are among the least among the least educated countries in the developed world. We are the unhealthiest by far. We are the most violent and crime-ridden nation, one of the most crime-ridden nations in the world. We suffer from disastrous community destruction, massive homelessness, debilitating traffic congestion. Everybody spends an hour a day in America in a traffic jam. Perilous environmental practices still. Irresponsible media. The media in other countries is better than our media. Can you imagine that? Then a government that is near paralysis. Our entire physical infrastructure and related social systems must be rethought, redesigned, and rebuilt. completely rethought, redesigned, and rebuilt. Now, design will save America, not because designers are currently addressing this challenge, but because of forces at work that will make design powerful enough, designers motivated and wise enough, and the public demanding enough to insist on that you perform such a rescue. That's in the cards. Now, what are the developments that are already happening that will make this kind of design rescue possible? Briefly, here are 10 that are already in motion, albeit mainly behind the scenes. The first one, there have been some mentions of it already at this conference, is there's a new criterion of national success. And it's what we call the quality of life goal. There are studies now which show, a recent one, 12,000 people take a test on this in 12 different countries, and 68% of them prefer a quality of life criterion over any economic criterion. Not that we won't have any interest in economics, but or that business won't prosper, but it will continue to serve this public sphere, but it will not lead it. It cannot lead it, and we'll talk about that a little later. So what has to happen is a completely redesigned and newly effective public sector in America, focused on advancing all infrastructure and social system designs, restoring community, establishing equality, and strengthening democracy. The second one is the growing power of design. Professionals and the public are discovering that design is much more powerful than we thought, broader, deeper, and stronger, and you've been hearing about that from other speakers here today and yesterday. The reason it's powerful is something behavioral scientists understand, but designers don't always understand it, and that is that you create situations, and situations are the most powerful determinants of human behavior. Far and away the most powerful, more powerful than anything else. And that's, of course, what you do, whether you try to do it or not, you do it. When you don't just design rooms, you design relationships. You don't design homes, you design families. You don't design buildings, you design organizations. You do it whether you mean to or not. And so it's a question of how intelligent your designs will be, will determine the success of our infrastructure. But design will become the most powerful profession, more powerful than education, medicine, law, media, greater than any. Now, with that, number 3, design's broader social responsibilities. See, when you get powerful, what naturally comes is social responsibility. And mainly, you people have been satisfying yourself with social responsibility by doing environmental management. And you're pretty well stuck in that area. But that's just the beginning. We've been working on that for 50 years, finally getting around to it. But it just begins to do what you're able to do, because you'll be coming into embracing developments of the last half century in social design and in neuroscience, and its powers will increase your powers exponentially and enabling you to address all levels of concern, all social issues, all troubled infrastructures. You'll be able to do them all. And you're the only ones that can do them all. There will be greater financial resources for design in this. The major movement of design into the public sector will mean access to new financial resources. And like the fields of education and health, for example, design must become a public priority. And when you do that, your budgeting will be in the billions and your planning will be in the trillions, the way it is for health and education, because you'll be the designers in those areas. Just imagine if designers had been ready when there was this $800 billion stimulus package presented to us a while back. If you'd been ready with a coordinated and integrated master plan that was comprehensive for that package, but what's happened, there was nothing ready. And they just spending it on repairing something we know doesn't work. Repairing something that doesn't. $800 billion that could have been yours for redesign. You'll have broader executive leadership in design. You know, what's happening is you see from these presentations you've had here, like the last one you just saw, is that design has such new technology that its complicated processes can no longer lead to a comprehensively educated and competent designer. That used to be when architects used to get out of school and get their training finished and get their licenses. They knew how to do, or thought they knew how to do, everything, landscaping, interiors, and all the technology and so forth. That's when they were drawing on paper and pencil, with paper and pencil. But now, they're much more, and as design reaches is extended, the complexity is going to grow. So like a successful corporate CEO who really, in most cases, doesn't even know what the field he came from is doing. He knows what it's doing, but he can't do it anymore. That's what's happening to designers now. The technology is getting away from it. As you well know, some of the top designers cannot begin to do the computer work that is being done. And so it's not only that gives you not only an opportunity to focus more on staff relations, as Scott Simpson is trying to tell us about, but to bring an inspiring vision based on an understanding of the larger potential context of the work, the critical social issues, the newly collaborative professions, the political forces at play, overcoming barriers to success, and an orientation toward a future beyond what most people are able to see. That's the new role for designers, and it's a tough one. Design will have increasing influence at the top as a result of addressing issues of increasing social importance to society. Design leaders will become members of high councils of decision makers. There will be members of boards of directors and important task forces and so forth. And that will increase greatly the influence of design. You'll aspire to relationships. I mean, the young people in the field that architects a century ago had when they associated with America's presidents and so forth. And just see Dick Sweat's book on that. That's what it used to be like until we professionalized. Designers getting better at embracing the paradoxes of social change. You're accustomed to dealing with things that are problems and that have solutions. But increasingly, as you get into the public sector, you're going to be dealing with issues in human affairs, and human affairs are seldom rational. They are almost entirely paradoxical, and they are what we don't call them problems, we call them predicaments, and it's much more difficult to solve them. Crime is a good example of, because it represents the fact that there are things we might never be willing to eliminate. Crime doesn't come, for example, as much from pornography and violence on TV and bad parenting or even poverty or racism. It comes from aspects of our society we cling to, even cherish, like affluence and urbanization and materialism and mobility and especially freedom. Free countries have a lot more crime than totalitarian countries. The most troublesome social issues are riddled with such paradoxes. I mean, think about it. If you good marriages are more likely to fail than bad ones. The upper half of our society feels more deprived than the lower half. It's the best universities where you get the most anger and protest and revolutions and so forth. You're going to be dealing with that kind of stuff, and and they aren't problems. And what you'll be doing is strategies for change that do not eliminate the problem, but to actually achieve improvements on the situation. Then a steady exercise of professional judgment. You people are used to dealing essentially with the subordination to clients. That's what, when I was on the board of the AIA, that's what they were trying to tell you. They were trying to say, your job is to treat these owners, these clients, as the people that you do what they want. They're the paying the bill, right? Well, professionals don't do that. Professionals don't just serve the people who are paying the bill. Because when you do something that's bad for us, society, then we are paying the bill. And so a professional, if you're a physician, you go ahead and do the work no matter who's paying for it, even if nobody's paying for it. And so we have a different posture to adopt. You cannot work in the public sector unless you are professional. You can't take a business approach to the public sector. It is not a money-making thing, even though you will make a lot of money, but that's not what it's about. It's about serving the public, and you have a very different strategy for that. And that means that you have to have the ability to say no, as physicians and lawyers and accountants and professors and other people have that ability. You have the ability to say no, but you can't have it by yourself. You have to have it as a profession. You have to help each other get this. That's what has to happen. You, just for the first time in history, and this is number 9, for the first time in history, disabled people now have full access to society because you made it possible. You did the most amazing thing. millions and millions, maybe billions of people now have access to society for the first time in human history, and you did it by lowering those drinking fountains, put in the ramps, new restrooms, you know what you did. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing, but it's just beginning. Everybody needs liberation in this society. Everybody, not just blacks and browns and poor people, and not just women and gays, but children need liberation. They're the most discriminated against society, and part of it's design. And 6-foot-tall white men need liberation. I got to tell you that, right? And then, of course, going to the people is something that you've always done. You've always consulted with people, and we have to do that in a new way where we really do empower them. The designs do reinforce our democracy by making it possible for them to influence our designs and to be empowered even if they don't know that that's happening to them. So designers are destined to become the leading professionals in our nation, not only saving us from disaster, which is imminent, but advancing us to unimagined achievements. Understandably, designers may not feel prepared for this. But you cannot and must not ignore the fact that design has become the only profession with the power to meet this challenge. Thank you very much.